The first ships appeared just after sunrise. Jae-sung Park watched from the window of the Global Defense Command Center in Seoul, his coffee growing cold in his hand. At first, they looked like strange clouds. Dark, massive shapes blocking out the morning light. But clouds don't move with purpose. These did. Hundreds of ships. No, thousands. They filled the sky like a metal curtain, blocking the sun and casting the world into an unnatural darkness. Each vessel was impossibly large, easily dwarfing the biggest human-made structures. Their surfaces were smooth and dark, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. They didn't look like the sleek spaceships from movies. They looked like floating mountains of shadowy metal. Jae-sung's computer screens erupted with alerts. Satellite images, radar tracks, and communication channels all showed the same thing. The alien ships weren't just hovering. They were positioning themselves over every major city on the planet. New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow. No place was safe. "It's happening," he muttered to himself. The room around him was filled with the best military minds humanity had to offer. Generals, scientists, communication experts, all frozen in place, watching the screens. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. Most just looked confused. A young communication officer named Hoon broke the silence. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission." Jae-sung stepped closer to the main screen. The message was simple, translated into every major human language simultaneously. "Greater than inhabitants of Earth. Greater than your civilization is inefficient. Greater than you will be replaced. Greater than surrender is your own logic. All choice. No greeting, no explanation, just a cold, calculated statement of intent." Military responses came quickly. Fighter jets scrambled from bases around the world. Missile systems powered up. Navy ships prepared their most advanced weapons. Jae-sung knew it wouldn't matter. Something about the alien ships told him their technology was far beyond anything humans could imagine. The first attacks confirmed his fears. American F-35 fighter jets approached the nearest alien vessel. Their advanced missiles, capable of destroying hardened military targets, looked like toys against the alien shields. The missiles didn't just fail. They disappeared. One moment they were flying toward the ship. The next, they were simply gone, as if erased from existence. Naval railguns fired their tungsten rounds at near-impossible speeds. These were weapons that could punch through the strongest human-made armor. Against the alien ships, they might as well have been throwing pebbles. Within minutes, the first human counterattacks were completely neutralized. Jae-sung watched a live feed from New York. One of the massive alien ships slowly descended over Manhattan. Buildings began to crumble not from direct contact, but from some kind of energy field surrounding the ship. It was like watching a city being crushed by an invisible hand. "They're not even trying to fight," he said quietly. "They're just clearing space." The communication officer looked at him. "What do we do, sir?" Jae-sung Park took a deep breath. His mind was already racing, searching for any possible solution. Humanity had always been good at solving impossible problems. They would need to be better than ever before. "We survive," he said, "whatever it takes." Outside the window, the world was getting darker. The alien invasion had begun. Min-ha Kim stared at the whiteboard, her marker hovering just inches from the surface. The board was covered in complex equations, quantum mechanics diagrams, and scattered notes. Around her, the secret research facility buzzed with nervous energy. They were humanity's last chance. 3 days had passed since the alien invasion began. Major cities were now ghost towns. Millions were dead. Communication was limited. The global internet, once a tool of connection, was now a fragmented network of survival messages and desperate pleas. "We're looking at this all wrong," Min-ha said suddenly, turning to her team of scientists and engineers. The room went quiet. They had been working nonstop, trying to find some way to fight back against the technologically superior aliens. Every traditional weapon had failed. Missiles, bombs, electromagnetic pulses, nothing worked. Dr. Lee, an older physicist with tired eyes, raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Minha walked to the board and started erasing some of the previous calculations. "We've been thinking about fighting the aliens with big weapons, massive attacks, force against force." She drew a small dot on the board. "But what if we go small? Really small?" She began explaining her theory. The aliens had incredible shield technology that could stop anything larger than a certain size. But what if they created something so small that the shields couldn't even detect it? "Nanoscale technology," she continued. "Machines smaller than a human cell. Machines that can move through systems, cut through connections, destroy from the inside." The room was silent. It was a crazy idea. But these were crazy times. How would we even begin to create something like that? Asked Chunho, a young engineer who had been working on advanced robotics before the invasion. Minha smiled. It was the first real smile anyone had seen in days. "We start by understanding their technology better than they understand it themselves." Over the next hours, the team began mapping out the concept. They'd pulled data from every satellite image, every recorded encounter with the alien ships. They studied the energy signatures, the shield frequencies, the way the ships moved and operated. The concept was simple but revolutionary. Create nanoscale machines, blades so small they were essentially invisible. Program them with advanced algorithms that could navigate through complex technological systems. Give them the ability to identify and destroy critical connections. "It's like a surgical strike," Dr. Lee said, finally understanding. But at the molecular level. Outside the facility, the world continued to fall apart. Refugee camps were growing. Governments were collapsing. The aliens continued their methodical destruction, treating Earth like nothing more than a system to be cleared and reprogrammed. But inside this small room, something important was happening. Humanity was finding its way to fight back. Minha looked at her team. "We'll need to build millions, no, billions of these nanoblades. We'll need to find a way to distribute them, to make them undetectable." Chunho pulled up some initial simulation models on a computer. The first tests looked promising. Very promising. "What are we going to call this?" he asked. Minha looked at the board, at the complex equations and diagrams. "The Whisper," she said, "because we're not going to roar. We're going to slice through their defenses so quietly they won't even know we're there." Outside, another alien ship passed overhead. But in this room, hope was taking shape. Tiny, precise, unstoppable. The underground laboratory was cold and silent. Rows of machines worked nonstop, creating something almost impossible to see. Billions of nanoblades, each smaller than a human blood cell, were being manufactured with mathematical precision. Jae-sung Park watched as Min-hye Kim made final adjustments to the production line. They had been working for weeks without real sleep. The world outside was dying, but here they were building something that might save humanity. "How do we know it will work?" Jae-sung asked. Min-hye didn't look up from her computer. "We don't. Not completely." The nanoblades were more than just tiny cutting tools. They were complex machines with advanced programming. Each one was designed to do three things: find a way into alien technology, understand its structure, and then destroy it from the inside. "Think of them like digital assassins," Minha explained earlier. But instead of killing people, they kill systems. The team had discovered something unique about the alien technology. For all its advanced shields and power, it was actually quite fragile at the microscopic level. The aliens had built massive, powerful systems that were connected in very precise ways. Cut the right connection, and the whole system would fall apart. Chunho, the young engineer, brought up a simulation on the main screen. It showed how a single nanoblade could move through an alien ship's systems. It was like watching a microscopic spy movie. The blade would slip through tiny gaps, analyze the system, and then strike at the most critical points. We need a way to spread them, Jae-sung said. The solution was both simple and clever. They would use the atmosphere itself. High-altitude jets would release the nanoblades into the air. From there, they would spread across the planet, carried by wind currents. When they came near alien technology, they would activate. No bullets, no explosions, just tiny blades moving with purpose. Dr. Lee, the older physicist, looked worried. "This is our last chance," he said. "If this fails, humanity is finished." Nobody needed to respond. They all knew what was at stake. The first test would be over Seoul. The city that had been almost completely destroyed by the alien invasion would now be the launching point of humanity's counterattack. Preparations took hours. Every nanoblade was checked, rechecked, programmed with multiple backup plans. They had to be perfect. One mistake could doom everything. "Ready?" Minha asked, her finger hovering over the launch button. Jae-sung nodded. His hand was on the emergency shutdown, just in case something went wrong. Outside, an alien ship hung in the sky. It was massive, silent, watching. Minha pressed the button. Nothing seemed to happen at first. No big explosion, no dramatic light show, just a quiet release of something invisible into the air. The nanoblades were on their way. Humanity's whisper was about to become a scream. The first signs were so small that nobody noticed them at first. A tiny connection broke inside the massive alien mothership hovering over Seoul. Then another, and another. Each break was smaller than a human hair, happening faster than any computer could track. Inside the ship, alien technicians began to notice strange readings, small system failures, tiny interruptions. Nothing serious at first, just little problems that seemed random and unconnected. Minha watched the first data streams come in. Her hands were shaking. This was the moment of truth. "It's working," she whispered. The nanoblades moved like ghosts through the alien technology. They weren't cutting or breaking things in a way anyone could see. Instead, they were carefully finding the most important connections, the critical points that held everything together. Imagine a massive bridge. The nanoblades weren't trying to break the bridge. They were targeting the tiny pins and cables that kept the entire structure standing. One by one, they found these points and weakened them. On the ship's main bridge, alien commanders began to realize something was wrong. Warning lights started to flash. Systems began to fail. But there was nothing to fight. No visible enemy. No clear attack. It was like the ship was dying from the inside. Jae-sung watched the satellite images. From the outside, the massive alien vessel looked exactly the same. But the data told a different story. Internal temperatures were changing. Power systems were becoming unstable. "How long?" he asked Minha. She checked her monitors. Not long now. The aliens had been so confident. They thought their technology was unbeatable. They had destroyed cities, killed millions, treated humans like something less than nothing. Now those same humans were taking their revenge. Quietly, precisely. Shunho, the young engineer, was tracking the nanoblade's progress. "They're learning," he said. "With each system they enter, they're getting smarter." The first visible sign of trouble came suddenly. A small section of the alien ship simply stopped working. Then another section. Then another. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. But this building was floating in the sky, and nobody could see what was causing it to fall apart. The alien ship began to lose altitude. Slowly at first, then faster. "All systems are failing," Juno reported. His voice was a mix of excitement and disbelief. Minha looked at the screen. Tears were in her eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of hope. The massive alien vessel was breaking apart. Not with explosions, not with drama, just quietly falling to pieces. Over Seoul, the ship that had brought so much destruction began to crash. Piece by piece, system by system. Humanity had just sent its first message. We are not your prey. We are not helpless. We fight back. And we do it with a whisper. The news spread fast, not through normal news channels. Those had been destroyed weeks ago, but through refugee camps, radio signals, and whispered messages. One alien ship had fallen, then another, and another. Dayan Lee watched the global communication network. She had been a biomedical engineer before the invasion. Now she was helping to spread humanity's new weapon across the planet. Each country was preparing its own version of the whisper. They shared information quickly. No more competition. No more national boundaries. Survival was all that mattered now. We need to modify the nanoblades, Dayan told her team. Each alien ship is slightly different. We can't use the exact same approach everywhere. In the makeshift laboratory, they worked nonstop. Some team members hadn't slept in days. Others looked like ghosts, but they all had the same fire in their eyes. Hope. Real hope. The first global launch happened over the Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of modified delivery systems released billions of nanoblades into the atmosphere. They looked like nothing. Tiny machines smaller than dust particles. But they were hunters. An alien mothership hovering near Hawaii was the first target. The nanoblades approached like a silent storm. They moved through the ship's systems, learning, analyzing, destroying. Within hours, the massive vessel began to break apart. Shono, who had been part of the original team, was now coordinating global efforts. He tracked each nanoblade attack on massive screens. Each green dot represented a successful mission. The screen was filling up with green. They're learning faster than we expected, he told Minha during a video call. She nodded. The nanoblades were more than just simple machines. They were learning systems, adapting, becoming smarter with each alien ship they entered. The aliens had no defense. Their technology was advanced, but it was also complicated. Too complicated. Each complex system was another way for the nanoblades to find a way inside. Reports came from everywhere. Moscow, Tokyo, Rio de Janeiro, Berlin. The whisper was working. Alien ships that had looked unbeatable were now falling from the sky. Not with explosions, not with dramatic battles, just quietly breaking apart. Some ships tried to escape, but they couldn't. The nanoblades were faster, smarter. They had already learned how to predict alien movement patterns. Dayan's team made another breakthrough. They discovered how to make the nanoblades spread between ships. If one ship was attacked, the nanoblades could jump to nearby vessels. It was like a digital virus. But for alien technology. The aliens started to panic. Their communication signals became confused, scared. They had never faced an enemy like this before. An enemy they couldn't see. An enemy that struck from the inside. An enemy that learned faster than they could defend. Humanity had found its weapon. And the universe would never be the same. The aliens didn't understand fear before they met humans. Their communication networks began to break down. Not from physical damage, but from something worse. Panic. Pure, raw panic spread faster than the nanoblades themselves. Jae-sung Park studied the intercepted alien communications. They were not like human messages. These were cold, logical, but now they were changing. Fragments of conversations showed confusion, uncertainty. They're afraid, he told Minna, not of dying, but of not understanding. The whisper weapon had become more than a physical attack. It was a psychological nightmare for the alien civilization. Each ship that fell didn't just represent a lost vessel. It represented a complete breakdown of everything they believed about themselves. Advanced technology, superior weapons, absolute control, all gone in moments. Junho developed a new strategy. Some nanoblades were deliberately allowed to be captured, but these were special. They carried false information, fake system maps, incorrect data about human capabilities. The aliens began to doubt everything. Was this attack coming from one location, Multiple locations. Were humans using some kind of advanced weapon? Or was it a biological attack? A computer virus? Something they couldn't even understand? Refugee camps around the world became unexpected war rooms. People who had lost everything were now helping track alien movements. Old computer experts, young programmers, engineers, scientists. Humanity was fighting back as one. Dayan's team discovered something interesting. The nanoblades were developing their own kind of intelligence. They were learning, adapting, becoming smarter with each system they entered. They're not just machines anymore, she told her team. They're like a living network. The aliens tried to communicate. They sent messages demanding surrender, explaining how resistance was impossible. But nobody was listening anymore. Their words rang hollow. Their technology looked weak. Their invasion was falling apart. In the alien command ships, leaders argued. Some wanted to continue the attack. Others wanted to retreat. The communication became more desperate, more confused. Jae-sung tracked these messages. Each one showed more weakness, more fear. The psychological war was working perfectly. The nanoblades weren't just destroying ships. They were destroying the aliens' entire understanding of themselves, of the universe, of what was possible. Humanity had found its ultimate weapon. Not a gun, not a bomb, not a massive weapon, just intelligence, creativity, the ability to turn something tiny into something unstoppable. The aliens had come to Earth thinking they would find a simple prey. Instead, they found a nightmare, a whisper that could scream. The Pacific Ocean became a graveyard of alien technology. Jae-sung Park stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching the massive screens. Hundreds of alien ships were now clustered together, not by choice, by fear. They were trying to protect each other, but protection was impossible. The global launch began with a simple command. No dramatic countdown, no loud sirens, just a quiet press of a button. Billions of nanoblades spread across the sky. They moved like a silent cloud, invisible, unstoppable. The first alien ships started to fall within minutes. They're grouping together, Junho said, pointing at the screen, trying to create some kind of defensive network. Minha watched the data streams. It won't matter, she replied. The nanoblades had learned something new. They could now jump between ships, not just through physical connections, but through the air itself, like an invisible infection spreading from one vessel to another. One ship would start to fail, then another, then another. The aliens had no defense. Their communication channels became a mess of panic and confusion. Complex alien languages broke down into simple signals of fear. They were watching their entire invasion force collapse. Not from a big attack, not from a massive weapon, but from something they couldn't even see. Dayan's team had prepared for this moment. They had created special nanoblades designed to target the aliens' primary command ships. These were the smartest machines humanity had ever created. They didn't just destroy. They learned. They adapted. They hunted. The Pacific became a massive technological graveyard. Alien ships broke apart in slow motion. Some simply stopped working. Others began to fall toward the ocean. Each one died quietly, without drama. Junho tracked the progress. We've destroyed over 60% of their invasion force, he reported. Jae-sung looked grim. It's not enough. We need to finish this. The remaining alien ships tried to escape, but they couldn't. The nanoblades were faster, smarter. They had learned every possible escape route. It was like watching a predator hunt, except the predator was something smaller than a human could see. Minha watched the final stages of the attack. Tears were in her eyes, not of sadness, but of something else. Hope, revenge, understanding. Humans were not weak. They were not simple. They were not an easy target. The last alien command ship began to break apart over the middle of the Pacific. No explosions, no dramatic destruction, Just a quiet collapse. Piece by piece, system by system, the invasion was over. Humanity had won. With a whisper, silence filled the alien communication networks. The invasion force was gone. Destroyed. Broken into pieces scattered across the Pacific Ocean. What remained were fragments of ships, broken technology, and something worse, complete fear. Intercepted alien communications revealed a shocking truth. They had never experienced defeat like this before. Their entire civilization had believed in their technological superiority. Now, that belief was shattered. Jason Park reviewed the last intercepted messages. They were not like normal communications. These were scared, confused, desperate. They don't understand what happened, he told Minna. She nodded. The nanoblades had done more than destroy ships. They had destroyed an entire alien civilization's understanding of itself. The first signs of retreat came quickly. Smaller ships began to pull away from Earth's orbit, not in an organized way, but like frightened animals running from a predator. Shunho tracked their movements. They're not planning another attack, he said. They're running. Dayan's team continued to analyze the captured alien technology. Each piece revealed something new. The aliens had believed themselves to be perfect. Their technology was complex, detailed, but also fragile. Humans had found the weakness. One tiny connection, one small system, could bring down an entire massive ship. The alien leadership tried to send messages, demands for surrender, threats, explanations about why resistance was futile. But nobody was listening anymore. Their words meant nothing. The nanoblades had become more than just a weapon. They were a message, a statement about human creativity, human intelligence. Refugee camps around the world began to celebrate, not with big parties, but with quiet hope. People who had lost everything were now seeing a future. The aliens had come to Earth thinking they would find an easy target. Instead, they found a nightmare, a species that could turn something invisible into a weapon, a species that could fight back when everything seemed lost, a species that would never give up. The last alien ships disappeared from Earth's orbit, not with a dramatic battle, not with a big fight, just quiet retreat. Jason looked at the screens. Years of destruction, millions of lives lost, cities destroyed. We survived, he said quietly. Minha put her hand on his shoulder. We did more than survive, she replied. We showed them who we are. The nanoblades continued to move through the remaining alien technology, learning, adapting, becoming smarter with each system they entered. Humanity had found its voice, and it was a whisper that could become a scream. The world looked different after the invasion. Minha Kim stood on the roof of the rebuilt research center in Seoul. Cities were coming back to life, not the same as before, but stronger, smarter. Humans had learned something important. Survival wasn't about having the biggest weapon. It was about being clever, about finding weakness, about never giving up. The nanoblades were still being studied. They had become more than just a weapon. They were a new form of technology, a new way of thinking about problem solving. Shunho walked up beside her. We've analyzed the last of the alien technology, he said. It's incredible. The alien ships they had captured revealed amazing secrets, complex systems the humans were now learning to understand, piece by piece, carefully. Jason Park was working with a global team, not just military people, scientists, engineers, people from every country, every background. The invasion had changed everything. No more national borders, no more small fights. Humanity had become something new. Day and Lee's team continued to develop the nanoblade technology. They were finding new uses, medical applications, environmental solutions, technology repair. What started as a weapon of survival was becoming a tool of creation. The first messages from other alien civilizations began to arrive. They had heard about what happened, how a small species had defeated a massive invasion force. Not with brute strength, not with huge weapons, but with intelligence, with creativity, with the ability to understand and adapt. Minho remembered the early days of the invasion, the fear, the destruction, the moments when it seemed like everything was lost. Now, everything was possible. "We're not just survivors," she told Juno. "We're something more." The nanoblades continued to evolve, learning, changing, becoming smarter with each system they studied. They were no longer just machines. They were almost alive. Refugee camps were turning into research centers. Schools were teaching new technologies. Young people were dreaming of exploring space. The aliens had come to destroy humanity. Instead, they had made humanity stronger. Jae-sung looked at the global communication network. Reports were coming in from everywhere. Cities being rebuilt. New technologies being developed. A sense of hope that hadn't existed before. "We learned something," he said to Minna. "Sometimes, the smallest thing can change everything." The world was healing. The scars were becoming strengths. Humanity had found its true power. Not in muscles, not in big weapons, but in the ability to think, to adapt, to survive. The universe would never be the same. And it all started with a whisper.